everybody. Welcome back. I'm Nate Moore. This is Excel video 253. I spoke last week in Georgia and then in California for MGMA and AMA groups. If I haven't spoken in your state in a while, I'd love to. What I want to talk about today is, remember when we left off, we had formulas that went A1, B1, and we could copy them all day long. And when we tried to do A1, B1, and C1, it kept copying even though we wanted to hold our formula to C1. These were relative references because every time you moved the formula, the row and column reference changed. If you come here to C1, we're going to make that an absolute reference today. The keyboard shortcut to do it is the F4 key. If you hit it once, it will lock in by putting a $sign in front of the columns, C, and the row 1. If I hit return now, look what happens when I copy the formula. Now I got that 100 added in. See, all these numbers are added with this C1 100 because the C1 formula doesn't change even though this goes from A4 to A5 to A6 and down. By locking in the C1, it doesn't change. Now, how would you use that? I've got an example over here on sheet 1 that we might start with. Here's my future profitability for my practice. Here's my revenues, my expenses in 2010. There's my profit. Let me show you the formula for 2011. I'm going to take B12, the prior year revenues, and I'm going to add a percentage, and I'm going to say revenues are going to go up by the cell D8, 4%. And then my expenses are going to be last year times 1 plus the 5% rate in D9. And the way this works is what I can do is I can copy this formula now, and notice how this is going to keep looking at the prior year. This is going to look at C12, that's looking at D12, that's looking at E12. But they're always, all three of them, looking at D8 here because D8 is an absolute reference and C12 is a relative reference. Same thing's going on here. Relative, absolute, and on across. And again, you can tell just by looking because the relative formula won't have the $signs next to the row or column, whereas the absolute formula will. And then if you don't have, like this is just the difference between revenues and expenses, we're not worried about absolute stuff there. We'll copy that across and we can see that because revenues are going a little and raising a little bit slower than expenses are, those expenses keep picking up, our profit margin keeps going down. But the idea is, because we're locking in this part of the formula, as we copy across, we can always reference the prior year times a set percentage. And the reason you'd want to do this is if you wanted to change your analysis and say, what if it goes down negative 2%, I can change it right there without having to change this formula and this one and this one and that one. It's a much more efficient and kind of error-proofing way to run your spreadsheet. And it's something you might try next time you've got a calculation that's going to affect several cells. Put one cell up there and use an absolute reference. Next time what we're going to do is we're going to mix the references. Have part, maybe the row or the column be relative, and the other part of the row or the column reference will be absolute. It's a mixed cell reference, and we'll talk about them next time. Thanks for watching.